Welcome everyone, this is Jim Collins with another episode of Journey to the Pit. Tonight we got a special guest, A.K.A, coming from Hawaii. So we're going to have a great night tonight. We just getting started. Just was doing some mic check and video check a few minutes ago. But we're going to have another great interview tonight. I hope y'all guys are excited. We got a gamefowl breeder from Hawaii that'll be able to give us his perspective on a life of raising gamefowl on the islands. As y'all guys know, the climate and everything like that is a lot different. So we'll be able to get some input from him, kind of follow his journey. He has also visited the state. So, I'll let him kind of get in and talk about, how life is on the island there, what his experience is with gamefowl, his background, his history, and also the trips that he have made here to the mainland. So I think it's going to be a great interview tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about, the operational aspect, his program and stuff like that he runs. And then once we do that, like I said, he's going to take us on his journey. So tonight should be a really, really good one. We're going to have it on, I'll post it to YouTube tomorrow. It'll also be on the Journey to the Pit podcast. It'll be on the Journey to the Pit 362 YouTube channel. It'll also be on Journey to the Pit fan page. It'll be on my personal page. It'll be on Journey to the Pit 362 group. So we're going to have it on many, many different platforms, many places for y'all guys to see it. Some of y'all guys are not in the Journey to the Pit group, which is fine. You can request to be added to the group. But if you're not in the group, you can watch it on Journey to the Pit fan page. Again, guys, also, too, we do upload it to the podcast, the Journey to the Pit podcast. I'll post a link. So if anybody interested in listening to it while they're out on the yard or driving in their car, they can listen to the interview then. So once tonight is over, by tomorrow, I'll upload it to the other platforms. But tonight, we got a very special guest from Hawaii. It's going to be some very interesting topics we're going to talk about, and also some very interesting challenges of what they deal with as far as raising birds on an island with that type of climate. Not many of us, actually none of us here in the States, deal with that type of climate that they deal with in Hawaii. So it could be some things that we can learn from them. Being out on an island with very, very high humidity, they dealing with some challenges that a lot of us has never dealt with. And some of us, depending on what time of the year, with a lot of rain and a lot of heat, we may encounter some of those things. So let's see what we can learn tonight. But I'm going to go ahead and request that he comes in. I sent him an invite. Let's see if we can bring him in.
This show on the road, so this is going to be awesome. It's adding him now, and we'll go ahead and bring him on, and we'll have a fun night tonight. I appreciate y'all guys tuning in. But let me go ahead and say the disclaimer. All the information discussed in this interview is for historical, educational, and entertainment purposes only. None of this information is intended for any illegal purposes, and all opinions are respected of the individual. So it looks like Facebook right now is trying to add him. As soon as he get added, we'll go ahead and start our discussion with this interview. I'm very excited about it. He'll be the second gamefowl breeder that we have interviewed from Hawaii. A different island, but second breeder. So I think Facebook is trying to add him. It's taking a little bit of time. Oh, here we go. How you doing, brother?
What's up, brother?
So listen, guys, here's our special guest tonight. A.K.A, you hear any feedback?
No, it's good.
You do? Okay, guys, let me know if you hear any feedback. We're starting to hear feedback, so you need to use the earphones.
Okay.
So, guys, we're going to have fun tonight. We're going to sit back, man, and have a fun interview. The audio looks good, though. The audio looks good. But I do hear feedback.
Okay, let me try.
So, guys, I hope y'all guys are sitting back, and I hope y'all just excited as I am. But this is pretty cool. This is going to be pretty cool. Let's give him a chance to get his earphones hooked up, because y'all guys know how Facebook is. Sometimes we have feedback, sometimes we don't. But I learned my lesson. We can't really do the interview with feedback because it's very hard to listen to. With the echoing and stuff like that, it's very hard to listen to. So, I don't have any feedback. Uh-oh, it looks like he got clicked out. Let me see if I can bring him back in. Just give us a second, and I'll bring him right back in. This time, it will be All right, guys. So we go ahead and add him now. He got his earphones on. Just give him an opportunity to get set up over there. We didn't think it was going to be any feedback because we just talked a little while ago and it wasn't any feedback. But for some reason, when we went live, we started to get the feedback. But it's no biggie. We're going to have this interview tonight. We just got to get him back on the screen. It's not a problem at all. Let me go ahead and get him back added in here. Yep, it looks like it's adding him now. So, guys, just stay tuned. He'll be on in a second.
Right. Sorry.
All right, there we go.
Better?
Yep, it's better now. It's good. And when the videos settle in, it'll be clear. So it's good. All right. Okay, brother, we good, man. So welcome again. Since you was already introduced a few minutes ago. But guys, if y'all just chiming in, it's A.K.A, better known as T-Boat. He'll get into that story later on, but we just wanted to introduce him by his name. Can you hear? I mean, you got your earphones in. Everything good on your end?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Okay, you can hear me good. So, A.K.A, let's start off. Let's go ahead and start off with, like we always do, so we can give the viewers some background of who we're talking to and, you know, a little bit about yourself. So are you first or second generation cocker?
I would say, like, first, like, my grandparents, they was into chickens. My dad guys had their time of chickens too, but as in serious chickens, I would say I'm the first.
So you're the first. You're the first of your generation. So tell me this, since you did have family in it, and you being really seriously the first, did you kind of have to learn everything on your own?
Yeah.
So I guess you pretty much certified as a first generation then. When you got to learn everything on your own, you pretty much first generation.
Yeah.
So
there's a long road.
Have you always lived in Hawaii?
My whole life.
Okay, so you native to Hawaii. So you're first generation, born and raised in Hawaii. Let's talk a little bit about, you know, how you got into the sport. You know, did you get into the sport through friends, or was it family, or just a neighborhood thing? How did you get into gamefowl?
Okay, so like there's a couple times in my life when I was younger, you know, chickens came in and out, you know. So growing up, my grandfather, my mom's dad, they was into chickens.
Okay.
You know, they had their chickens. But there was this breeder in Hawaii. Everybody, or a lot of people, knew him, heard of him, and his name was Baloney. Yeah, and what happened was my mom and my dad, before my other siblings were born, we rented a duplex basically. He lived on the bottom, we lived on the top.
Right.
And you know, so this old man, I call him Papa P. You know, so this old time chicken fighter every day. You know, I used to walk around in my underwear and my boots and you know go do chickens. You know,
right.
So that was my first, you know, earliest memories of chickens. So his chickens are still known to today in Hawaii. It's the Baloney pumpkins, yeah. So
wow,
a lot of people in Hawaii know about these chickens. You know, he passed away, I would say, about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was, and a lot of the big breeders now, you know, at one time in Hawaii, before the internet came about, only had a handful of people that had really good roosters, you know.
Wow.
It wasn't like now where you can just get online and get in contact with some creditable fowl, yeah.
Right.
So back in one time, like there's only a handful of people that had really good chickens, and the rest, you know, they would share, try and breed, and you know, try to compete, you know. But at one time, it would be the same guys winning over and over and over because they had all the good chickens, you know.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so my earliest memory would be like of that time. And then after that, like my grandpa had chickens and whatnot, but I wasn't too much into it. And then my grandpa got out of chickens. So I had a long section where, you know, chickens was not involved in my life.
Right.
It was all sports, you know, basketball and just sports. And then came about, I would think about 6th grade maybe. Me and my friends, you know, we started hanging around, and one of my friends had chickens. And I'm like, okay. So, you know, I go home and I talk to my dad. I'm like, Dad, I get chickens again. And he's like,
Right.
what? Chickens? You know, no, play basketball. You know, go play basketball. You know? And so my dad didn't really want me to have chickens at that moment in
Right.
sixth grade or whatever.
Right.
So one day I brought a chicken home, and it was probably like a bantam chicken, you know, a small. And so I brought it home to my house, and I took one of those wire rings that you throw the cans and bottles in, you know,
Right.
dumped it all out, and you know, I put it in the bushes by our house because I didn't want to put it in the yard, you know, because my dad just told me, nah, don't worry about chickens, you know. So, you know, but get up in the morning, the rooster's crowing, right?
Right.
So
Right.
my dad walks back there and he's like, get one chicken in the bushes? I'm like, I don't know, you know, I don't know nothing about it,
Right.
you know? And then so like that's how it started. And my dad seen the chicken and it's like the short bantam chicken, yeah? Then he's like, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
you know. So he called my mom's brother, which still was into chickens at that time. He was like, hey, your nephew wants a chicken. So sure enough, that day my uncle comes, he gives me this nice hatch rooster, you know.
Wow.
And then
so it goes from your dad not really even wanting you to be bothered with chickens, so he go out in the yard and see you had hid one over in the bushes somewhere, and he try to pretend like you don't know how the chicken got there.
Yeah, so like, and then after that, it totally switched. So my dad was like, well, you know, if you're gonna do chickens, you ain't gonna have that kind of chickens, you know. So my dad thought by getting me one rooster, I was gonna get rid of that other rooster.
Right.
But now I just had two roosters, you know.
So you didn't get rid of the other rooster, huh?
Yeah. So my dad was like, you know, go take that chicken back to your friends. So my dad had a good friend, and he's still a good friend. Me and this guy, you know, after my dad passed away, this guy did a lot for me. You know, his name is Bobby Castillo. Yeah.
Okay.
He did a lot for me in this. He took me under his wing, and like if it wasn't for him, I would have never went to the States. I would have never seen the light, you know.
Wow.
You know. Yeah. So he's my dad's real good friend. They used to play basketball together. But at one time on the Big Island, they're one of the toughest groups around. Like, you know, they was winning derby after derby after derby. You know, so these guys, they really know what they're doing, you know.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So, like, you know, like a week later, my dad takes me up to the farm, and I was like in chicken heaven. I never seen anything like this, you know.
So your
all I
uncle's
seen
farm,
was like my dad's friend, this guy Bobby. So when he took me up there, like I seen when I was younger, I remember seeing Baloney's yard and his farm, you know, and, you know, my grandpa, and like real small backyard kind of thing, right?
Right.
So he takes me to this farm, and I'm like, you know, 300-400 teepees, you know, and a cock house, you know, and I'm like, oh wow, you know.
Right.
And my dad's friend was like, I didn't even have chicken boxes, so we had dogs at that time, so we bought all the dog porters to put the chickens in.
Right.
So my dad's friend was like, go take any ones you want, you know. So,
right, exactly. So
I was like, okay.
So hold on. So let me get this straight. So you go from hiding a chicken in the bushes to your father catching you with the chicken in the bushes. He call up your uncle. Your uncle bring you over a chicken, a hatched chicken, and then from there, that's when it all started, huh?
Yeah, that was it.
That was it.
And like after that day, if we brought home those chickens, you know, I'll tell you right now, the nicest chicken setup I ever had in my life is when I was in 8th grade. Yeah. And my dad wasn't into chickens. He built me the best setup. You know, I didn't know what I had at the time.
Wow.
You know, I didn't know what I had. My dad built me, you know, indoor fly pens, up coops, teepees. Like I had it good. I didn't know what I had.
Kid at it, you was in the 8th grade, huh?
8th grade. But I didn't know nothing about chickens. I just had them. I didn't know nothing.
Tell me this, A.K.A, did it kind of spark something back in your father when he seen you getting involved with the chickens? Did that kind of spark something into him for him to do that?
Yeah. Yeah, so he was busy because my dad had his own company, so he was really busy. But, you know, every now and then I would catch him outside, you know, going through the yard, checking out the chickens, you know. And then, he did get into it at one time. So he had another friend so my original love in chickens are blacks. Blacks are my original love, you know. So I worked for my dad all summer. This was 8th grade summer. I worked for him all summer to make $350 to buy one rooster from this guy, this black rooster.
Wow.
And in Hawaii, $350 at that time was like the most expensive chicken around. You know, chickens were selling for 50, 75, 100, 150, 200 was like the best chickens you could find.
Right.
But I bought one from my dad's friend for $350. This old guy.
Wow.
And it was a black, you know, this jet black rooster. And from then on, I was stuck to blacks for a very long time.
So what kind of blacks were they? I mean, like.
So the first one I got from him was a Sid Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah. So this guy, he raised majority black. So he had the old Warhorse blood, the black ones, and the Sids. Yeah.
Okay. And you fell in love with the blacks, huh?
Oh, blacks was my favorite. Yeah. Blacks was my favorite.
So tell me this, was this the same place that you went and seen a farm with 300 tie cords and all that kind of stuff?
No.
It wasn't?
No. This is a small little place. It's a house, and this guy had way more chickens than he should have on this little property. This guy had chickens everywhere. In his house.
Wow.
This guy had chickens everywhere. Yeah.
They were good chickens.
Yeah, they were good. But at that time, I wasn't showing anything, you know, so I don't know if they're good in the pit, but to me, they're the best chickens in the world at that time, you know, being in 8th grade. I had the best chickens around, you know.
That's right. That is right. So you start off with your blacks, right? And you still had a little bandy rooster. You still had that same bandy rooster still?
No, at that time, I had to, you know, I had to give and take with my dad. So that chicken had to go.
Right.
The chicken had to go.
Wow. Yeah. So tell me this, though. So when you got the blacks, you got the Sid, right? It was a Sid Taylor back then. It was a black. So what type of relationship did you have with your uncle? Because you said your uncle had a pretty big farm, right?
Yeah. So like me and him, we're still tied to today. Like, you know, I still give them all my loyalty, you know, because if it wasn't for them, you know.
Right.
Yeah, they're the one took me to other islands to, you know, when I was young, I was in high school, and they used to take me almost every weekend to other islands to go see the big derbies, and, you know, you know, they really showed me the light in, you know, chickens, you know.
So by then you was probably what, 3 or 4 years into it by then, huh? When they started taking you around different islands.
Yeah.
So how many chickens would you say you had then? Did you just have a whole yard full of blacks or what? What did you have?
No, my plan was to have a whole yard full of blacks, but I sucked at breeding and keeping them alive, so I didn't have too many blacks. I tried my best to breed them. I don't know. I couldn't make it happen, you know.
That's right. You couldn't.
At that time. Yeah. You know, didn't have the knowledge, you know. So I put them in the pen. They breed. They make eggs. They sit on them. They hatch. They die, you know. Like,
Right. So, but by then, your dad had already laid you out a pretty nice setup, huh? Is that, you know, by that time you had the fly pens and all that kind of stuff by then?
I never had a setup that nice ever since. I'll be honest with you.
Wow.
Yeah, ever since. I never had a setup that nice. When I was in 7th grade, that's the nicest setup I ever had.
Wow. You traveling to different islands with your uncle, you know, being able to see a whole different side, the real side. Well, I say another level. I ain't gonna say the real side, but another level of the sport. So how did you feel about that? I mean, were you like in amazement when you went out there to see all these different types of birds and the performing aspect and all of that? How did that make you feel?
Well, in the beginning, you know, I was so lost in the amazement of what was going on, the kind of chickens, you know. So I didn't really gain too much knowledge because I was basically in like shock, you know. See all these, you know, guys betting this, you know, a good chunk of change, you know, on these chickens, and just, you know, it was like what do you call it? Like just like a blur. It was a blur. The whole time frame was a blur because I wasn't really learning because I was too amazed with everything, you know.
Right. So that time you still had them SIDS. So before we go any further, is that around the same time? Because you said you came to the States also too. Is that around the same time your uncle brought you to the mainland, or what?
This was years later. This was when I got a little bit more serious into it and started actually learning and, you know, getting serious into the chickens. And that first trip to the to the States, really, I seen the light, you know. I seen the light when I went there. It's you know, if don't get me wrong, Hawaii, there's some damn good rooster men. There's damn good breeders. There's you know, damn good roosters in Hawaii. You know, but and I'm talking about in that time frame.
Right.
So let's say in the early 2000s, in Hawaii, everybody had damn good. You know, everybody's really good.
Right.
But when I went, you know, to the big pits and I met all these guys up there, they're just one level above, you know. I'm talking more so, not so much the roosters,
right,
but the knowledge, the science behind the chickens, you know.
Right.
But like, don't get me wrong, Hawaii still had guys that was knowledge up here with them.
Right.
But as in a whole, they were way more advanced.
Way more advanced. And you said the guys that you met when you came to the mainland, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, that trip right there really opened my eyes in chickens, and you know, everything changed. After that point right there, I didn't have the Sid blood already. I didn't have that, but I had McRae's, I had mugs. You know, I still was into blacks. That trip changed my outlook on chickens, and from that day forward, I never owned another black.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me this. Let's talk a little bit about your experience on the mainland, because since that had such a big impact on you, let's just talk a little bit about that. So what state, like, you ever visit any of the big pits? And because we talk about the legal days now. These is the legal days.
Yeah, this is legal, yeah.
Right, legal days. So did you have an opportunity to visit any of the big pits?
Yeah, so like yeah, I got to shake this guy's hand, and like, you know, just it's only a memory now, because I got only one picture from that trip, right? And my cousin was taking all the pictures. He came with us and we went, but you know, accident happened and we lost all the pictures.
Basically. Okay.
You know, but I got to shake Mr. Jumper's hand. You know, I got to talk and, you know, spend some time with him for a little bit.
Right.
And hey, he's a nice man, because I was a boy from Hawaii that wanted to know everything and probably was asking him too many questions, you know. But but he took the time to actually, you know, we're sitting outside of the Bayou Club, and in fact, it was the Johnny Jumper tribute.
Wow.
The 12 Cock tribute.
Wow.
So, you know, all the big breeders was there, but I actually got to sit with him outside, and hey, he gave me the time of day.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Yeah. He answered every question I had for him. Oh yeah, for me, you know, I hear about this guy my whole life, you know.
Right. Right. Exactly.
And I actually get to meet him, you know. I got to meet a lot of good guys up there, but like the guys that really changed it for me was Brian Corcoran, you know. So we went up there with him because he used to fly to Hawaii to fight with my friend guys. So we became really good friends over time, but we still talk all the time. We're still good friends. But that guy helps me a lot. He helps me a lot.
Right.
And like he's good, you know. I learned a lot from that guy. Yeah.
You learned a lot. So
he's one of the best out
on
there.
that trip?
No, I knew him before that trip. He used to come to Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we spent time in Hawaii together.
Right.
Yeah. But I never get to see him in his environment, in his game, you know?
That's right. So
he used to come to Hawaii. We used to do really good. We used to win derbies. We used to fly to other islands together.
Right.
And, you know, but my friend here would train the roosters. Brian would fly down and finish them up, you know, and he would put the knife and he would let them go. And we won derbies, you know, together. But I finally got to meet him in his environment.
In his backyard.
Yeah. And he's down to science. That guy knows what he's doing. Yeah.
Wow. So he was a huge impact, and it even just reiterated what you already thought about him. You just seen him in a whole different light when you came to his neck of the woods.
Oh,
It just like, wow, this guy actually is the real deal.
Yeah. Yeah. For a guy that, like, you know, he's well known. I don't gotta, you know, say how good he is and what. Everybody knows who he is. But I'll tell you one thing. When he selects his roosters, he brings them to the pit, you'll see what he's about. Like, this guy has a mean eye for roosters, and he's just an all-around awesome chicken man.
So you said that trip right there kind of changed your whole aspect, your whole life when it came to chickens, huh?
I've seen the light on that trip right there. Yeah, I've seen the light.
And you was at the Bayou Club at the 12 o'clock Johnny Jumper tribute and had an opportunity to sit outside and sit down and talk with one of the legends, Mr. Johnny Jumper, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. I bet you keep that memory like, man, that was like a highlight of your rooster career, huh?
I tell everybody I was there for a long time. I was there for almost a month, yeah.
But
I told everybody that's the best trip of my life. That's where I learned how to do roosters right there. And another guy is Teddy Norton. Teddy Norton, he's an awesome guy. He's my brother too. Yeah, he's my brother. Wow. Teddy Norton, when we because he lived near the Bayou Club, yeah.
Okay.
But he did a lot for me too. Without him even knowing, he did a lot for me. And at that time, I didn't know anything about the short knife. I didn't know nothing. Hawaii's all long knife, yeah.
Right.
But when I seen short knife, Teddy Norton's a monster in the short knife. This guy is no joke.
Wow.
Yeah. At that time, when I actually I met him there. He was Brian's friend, and he's a really nice guy. He took us in like family,
Mm-hmm.
But I watched this guy fight in the short knife. He's a monster. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
short knife, his grays. I never seen grays ever that fought like that. His grays. At that time, Johnny Jumper tribute. You can ask anybody that was there. Teddy Norton's grays. They're hard to touch, man.
They're hard to touch. So that right there, with you being here a whole month on the mainland, changed your whole aspect, your whole life, your whole view of the sport, the chickens, and everything, huh?
Oh, everything. Because I spent a lot of time with Brian, throughout the days. Because the problem was, all my friends was older. Mm-hmm. I wasn't 21 at that time, So they was going out. They was going to the casinos, I got in the first night, when I went. They were so amazed with the Hawaii ID, they didn't even look at my age. They let me right in, But the second night, they're like, oh, Hawaii IDs, go. And the second night, I make it through the gate. I'm in the casino. Then, these big guys grab me and start dragging me out,
Nah, you got away with it one time, but we looked at your birth this time. We wasn't fascinated.
Yeah. So on all the down times when everybody was going out, I was stuck with the chickens, So that's where I really put a lot of learning into. And, Brian took the time to actually explain things to me, That trip changed my whole feeding on, how I was doing it. And, the feeding is so important.
Right. So tell me this, A.K.A. When you, with that trip, I know you soaked in a ton of information. So when you returned back to the island, what were some of the first things that you changed, from that experience? So when you got back to the island, because I know you was probably already on the mainland and said, oh, when I get back, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I see what I'm doing wrong, think, what I need to change. So when you got back to the island after that month-long trip, what were the first things that you changed?
I got rid of all the blacks.
You
all
got
the
rid
blacks
of all
went.
the blacks.
I always had the pumpkins. I always had pumpkins. So for me, the pumpkins worked because they're good cutters. They're not the best chickens out there,
Right.
A lot of people don't like them, but they cut,
Right. Right.
They have good, nice, big bodies, and they cut. So I kind of focused on that and basically try to get the roosters to cut more than anything, And on that trip is where I learned the sockets, That's where the whole T-boat thing came in. If it wasn't for Brian, and Teddy Norton. Teddy Norton donated a lot of roosters to me so I could practice while I was up there. And I know he probably didn't want me to put knives on his chickens, because I just was learning.
Right.
But Teddy Norton, because in the meantime, between the big derbies, there's small games here and there, So we was at Teddy Norton's farm, and Brian was like, okay, we're going to start learning. So he's like, go grab roosters, right? And first thing I come back is with 2 blacks. 2 blacks and 2 hatches. And Brian's like, no, put them back. Put them back, put them back. And then so what roosters? They send me in this section. You can ask Teddy Norton about this. They take me in a section in the yard that was only Asios, pure Asios. The tails was dragging the ground. And Brian told me, that's the roosters you pick. and I'm mad. Okay, in my mind, I'm mad. I'm kicking dirt,
Right.
back to the cock because I didn't want no seals. I didn't want to put no knife on them.
Right.
But they're accurate, hard-hitting cutters.
Right.
So when Brian was teaching me how to put those sockets on, that's in the beginning. The first couple of times was only with a seals,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I could see it like I'm getting beat up because the roosters are way faster, but
Mm-hmm.
they would throw their legs once and hit them, and
It'd be over with.
that's
Yep.
the fight.
That's how it is.
It'd be over with.
Yep. That's how it is with them. They don't have to throw no whole shuffling and all that flapping of the wings.
Yeah.
They don't. They like one hitter quitters. That's it. Bam. And it's over with.
And that's where it stuck with me after that. When I seen that made me realize that you could have all the legs in the world. You could be kicking 30 times,
Mm-hmm.
but you're no match for a single stroking good cutter.
Mm-hmm.
In the long knife, in the long knife.
Right.
So when I came back to Hawaii after that trip, like I didn't care how much the roosters kicked. I didn't care. I just cared about good timing and cutting ability.
That's
They could
it.
kick only once on every fly, but if they're hitting first,
Right.
that's all I care about now.
Right.
Yeah, I don't care how much times they kick. I care about good cutters, and I like big-bodied roosters.
So when you return, one of the first things that you realized that you had to adjust with your standards was a whole different characteristic as far as on performance end. Like the way a bird perform, you looked at and said, nah, that ain't really what, that ain't really what I want. What I really need is this. I wanted this, but what I need is this. So that's what changed.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
but at that time, before I went there, I was good at losing. I was one of the best losers around, I was good at losing. Yeah. So like I told everybody, I learned how to lose before I learned how to win. I was good at losing.
You was good at, but tell me this though. Not only so you learned that you needed to look for different characteristics in a bird. But what did you learn anything as far as the feeding, the care, anything like that?
The feeding was the biggest part. The feeding. I was like, there's no right or wrong way to do feeding. It's whatever works for you.
Mm-hmm.
But feeding, that was my problem at that time.
Mm-hmm.
For one, I had roosters that wasn't the best cutters,
mm-hmm.
and I was feeding them wrong for that type of roosters. So I was making it worse.
Right.
I was making it worse. They're crackling, kicking a lot, beating guys' air to the ground, but it wasn't cutting,
Right.
So the feeding, to me, feeding is the most important thing.
The feeding,
roosters, The feeding, yeah, it's more than anything, yeah.
So you say you basically, not only were you feeding the wrong style feed for that type of bird, were you feeding too much, too little? Did you change the whole grain, or like, give us some detail of what you did so much different.
At that time, I was feeding off like the base feed that you'd get from the feed store, right? And I just would put some additives in it. So it wasn't right after my trip back. It was some times went by. I was experimenting with the feeding, and it was a roller coaster ride. It was a roller coaster ride. And then I started mixing my own training feed. So it's real similar to a lot of the old time feedings and keeps you see out there, and it's real similar to all of that. I believe after gaining some knowledge and whatnot, I'm a believer in the buttermilk. A lot of people don't like it, but for what I do, like the buttermilk, I'm a believer in that.
The buttermilk has made you a believer, huh?
Yeah, I'm a believer. They cut, they cut. That's the main thing. And there's a whole theory behind it. And me, I feed a lot. I have a total different outlook on how I feed. So a lot of people in Hawaii look at how I feed and think I'm crazy. Because I feed a lot. I'm not one of those guys to give them one piece of corn, one piece of egg whites every hour on the hour. So I do things a little different. And there's a theory behind it, and with the milk, my keep is 5 weeks long.
Okay.
It's 5 weeks long. So you regulate them over that 5 weeks to get their inside running like a clock, right? So you can feed them, but make sure they can pass it through in the time needed, right? So, and I feed a lot. I don't carbo load. I don't carb load. I
Okay.
feed protein, you know.
Okay.
And it's all about the cutting. So my theory is it's better for me, at least, is what I think, you know, because there's a fine line when you talk about drying the rooster out to the proper moisture and having them empty. Yeah, there's a fine line between fighting strong and being flat. It's a real fine line, you know. So like just for me, and like I said, like there's no right or wrong way to feed chickens. It's whatever works for you. So the way I feed is the only downfall is sometimes my roosters might be a little sluggish.
Okay.
You know, but they will cut you. Like they will cut you so deep.
Right.
And that's worst case scenario, right? Worst case scenario. They're sluggish, but they cut deep. You know, but if you have them right, they'll cut you and they'll be sharp. So my theory is you get roosters that have awesome timing. They always hit first. You feed them to cut. As long as they touch you first, you'll be okay.
Right, you know? right. And there's no guarantees to anything, but at least you got a concept behind it and something that you're working towards. So that's basically what you're doing. You're working towards to hit all three of those cylinders. This feed, the timing, the right moisture, or the way you feeding them, you're just trying to hit those three things. If you hit those three things, like, look, I at least got a chance. No guarantee, but I at least got a chance. So
and I would take being sluggish over being flat any day. You know, any day. At least my legs are going up into their bodies and not low and not out there. You know, but a lot of people don't agree with the way I feed, but it's okay. You know, that's the good thing about chickens.
That's right. And like you say, it's all what works for you. So what works for you may not work for somebody else. So tell me this: when you got back to Hawaii and you started to get really serious, what bloodline of birds did you have then? Did you start off with? Since you got rid of all the black, what did you replace them with?
I stick with the pumpkins. So I always had the pumpkins and the blacks, but I stick with the pumpkins. Luckily, I had like Uncle Brada Silva. He's one of the guys that has that baloney pumpkins. Because I messed up that pumpkin blood so much times in my life trying to breed them. You know, luckily I always had him to get fresh stuff back.
Yeah, right.
Because I messed it up so much times in my life already. You know, so. Yeah, I messed it up. So like, luckily I always had. Yeah. Like, I just messed it up, and okay, hey, can you help me again? You know.
Yeah, that's right.
So Uncle Brada, that's why I love him, because he always gave me good stuff. You know, I mean, I was trying my best to breed them. I just didn't have the knowledge, you know, at that time on breeding, on how to breed chickens.
Right. So who taught you how to breed?
So a lot of the combination, but a lot of people, and you know, I just see what works. So me and Uncle Brada talk a lot, and he's maintaining that baloney pumpkins, So I just listen to how he breed them. But the difference between, they always like the deep red pumpkins. I always like the really light ones since I was a young kid. So when I was young and baloney, I used to tell him, oh, I want that one. He was like, no, don't take that one. I'm going to kill that one. You know, but I like the color. So I always, you know, and he told me, don't breed that ones. And my whole life, I didn't listen. I breed the light ones, the one they told me not to breed. You know, just because I like the color. You know, I didn't care about nothing. I like the color.
Right.
But you know, so I always knew to breed certain ones and what hens to breed, and I just never did it. You know, young, not thinking.
Right.
You know, people say things for a reason. Yeah.
Right. That's
you know, and I just didn't listen. You know, but they're saying it for a reason.
Right.
But so in the last, I would say 6 years, I tried to breed towards the dark side of the pumpkins, you know, and it did make a difference. It did make a difference. Yeah, it makes a difference. And then Brian Corcoran, you know, he must get mad at me sometimes for always asking him questions, but, you know, he helps me a lot in when I'm stuck and, you know, I don't know what to do or how to, you know, I always shoot him a text, you know, hey, what do you think about this? And another thing in Hawaii was, brother-sister matings was a big no, you know. Never do brother-sister matings. All growing up, never, you know, you can do father-daughter, you know, but brother-sister was a big no. But I breed brother-sister now.
You do breed brother and sister, huh?
Yep.
And you get good results.
Some of the best roosters that I pulled off in the last couple of years came off of brother-sister.
Wow. Wow. So tell me this, okay, why do you think that was a stigma? Was that just like some old folk tale or something like that? Or maybe somebody started out breeding brother and sister, got bad results, and it just spread like, don't do it because this famous, because a lot of times people just copy what famous people do. So a famous guy or a successful, I ain't gonna say famous, but a successful breeder does something and it doesn't work. If it come out of his mouth, you'll have thousands of people say, "Oh no, don't do that at all. Don't do that at all." It's like, dude, you got different chickens than he got. You don't even have the same chicken. Just because it didn't work for him doesn't mean it's not gonna work for you. So do you think that's where that all came from? Don't breed the brothers.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. So I popped this question to I don't want to say names or nothing because
don't
I
say
don't
no
want to
names. Don't say no names.
I don't
No
know if
names.
that's his he keeps that to himself or
Right.
whatnot. Yeah.
No names.
So
We'll talk about no names.
yeah. So I asked him. I was running into a problem with one of the bloodlines I was having because these roosters were coming big.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm talking about 8-month-old, 7-pound roosters.
Wow.
They were coming big. Yeah. So I was trying to. So I was, I always through my selection, I picked the nice big bodied ones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And after about 3 years, they started getting super heavy. They started getting big, and then 2 years ago, they started getting really big. Like they were cocking out at close to 8 pounds.
Wow.
Huge. Yeah, huge. So then, I kind of had to start evaluating how to breed them because I didn't want to do away with them because the chickens, they're good. They're fast as anything out there. They fly as high and they can kick, man.
Right.
But I didn't, I was running into problems because you can't fight them because they're way too damn big.
Right. Right.
So then that's when I really sit down. The last 2 seasons, I didn't really show too many roosters because I was busy breeding. And to maintain one bloodline, it's so hard. So for me, I don't know how breeders can maintain 10 bloodlines to the best of their ability because it's hard. Right. Just to maintain one bloodline and, all say you got different families in the same bloodline.
Right.
And just to breed them to make your foundation,
right.
It takes up a lot of room and a lot of space. And you got to keep a lot of hens around, you know?
Right.
And it's hard. So the thing to that was I started breeding the smallest ones around that came out, from the season before. And they started after, it took me about 2 years to get them back to, I would say, about 5'10" to about 6'4", roughly. They'll be between those sizes. And then I got one good mating. It was basically great-grandbabies of the original stuff. And for some reason, this specific 2 hens that I bred to this rooster, both sides, each hen made the babies were the best as to date that I had them, And so the question with that was, what do I do from there,
Right.
What do I do from there? And my friend told me, he said, you pick what you look for out of the offsprings and you breed them, brother, sister, And, he told me just like this. The good thing about brother, sister, you can lock in because it's on both sides and you lock it in. But you will unleash every bad genetic that is in that blood. So you got to be real careful of the selection downline after that, what you do. And as far as I knew, this was totally against the rules. You don't breed brother and sister.
Right.
But I actually tried it. This wasn't my plan A, B, or C. This is like a plan Z. I just did it to see, but the best roosters came out of that brother-sister baby.
So tell me this, A.K.A. What was the 2 hens that you bred to that one rooster to kind of put you in the direction that you wanted to go? Were they sisters or did they come from 2 different?
No, they were sisters. So they came off 2 hens that were sisters with a cock. And I bred them together. I took 2 daughters out of them. One wasn't really consistent. one really was of the sisters, the second generation. So I only bred that real consistent one. And then from there, I took 2 daughters from that. And I bred it to a rooster that was from another hen, but same grandfather. And I put him in. And from then on, you know, that's something happened.
Something happened. That's
yes.
what it is. So you
something
tried
happened.
So the point that I'm getting at of this also too is the fact that you start trying things, didn't know exactly what was going to come. You know what you wanted. You know what you wanted to work towards, but you didn't know what the results was going to be until you did it. That's why you went ahead and tried it, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So now birds are coming in a weight size that you want now?
Yeah, better for sure. Better, yeah. Because I like big roosters. I like to show between 5'12" and 6 pounds. In Hawaii, you know, the weight cutoff is about 6 pounds.
Okay.
For all the big and major derbies in Hawaii, 6 pounds is the cutoff.
Okay.
I would say majority for all the derbies.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me this. Now that we talked about how you kind of got your selection to where you wanted to go, let's just talk a little bit about individual selection, like how you determining what hens to use, how you determining what cocks to use. We understand as long as they produce, obviously you're going to use them. But what are you looking for, say, in a cock to even determine if you're going to give them a try?
So in the beginning, it was more so confirmation. You know what? I like this certain, for me with the sockets. It's this certain stance. You know, some people like the elbows pointing in. Some like them. You know, they don't. But not like straddle legged or bow legged. You know, nothing like that.
Right.
But for me, the structure that I do good with the sockets is they're wide chested. There's wide gap, like at least this far apart between the legs. You know, stream straight down. But I want their elbows, when they're standing straight like this, for the elbows to turn out just a slight little bit. Elbows straight, legs straight, but elbows out just a little bit.
Okay.
And for me, that's what works with the sockets. So I breed around the sockets, you know, the socket.
Gotcha.
So
you said they big breasted, right?
Yeah, big bodies, like, you know, they're big. Yeah.
And how about
big breasted, big backs too.
Oh, big wide backs, huh?
Yeah. Honestly, right now, my chickens are coming out taller than I want them to be.
Which is what? High station or?
High station. I don't like tall chickens. But as long as the drum is longer than the shank, it's okay.
I got you.
Yeah, you don't want long shank, short drums because they won't cut very good. You know?
Got you. You want that?
As I believe, you know.
Well, no, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about what you believe. We ain't talking about nobody else. So you like to have a long drum. You want the drum to be longer than the shank.
Yeah.
Got you. You want the elbows to be pointed out just a little, but still straight legs.
Yeah.
You want that big wide breast and a wide back, right?
Yeah.
And how about your station? You want a medium station, medium to low, medium to high?
You know, derbies, everybody likes tall chickens. You know, they want the reach, they want the height. But for me, I like medium station roosters. They cut better, you know, to me.
Okay.
But not medium to short, more medium to the tall.
Okay.
But as long as the drums are big and long, or at least longer than the shank.
Right.
You know, that's what I like. But yeah, tall chickens, I don't really care for them. A lot of my Goldens are coming really, really tall. The drums are still longer than the shanks.
Right.
But I still don't like them tall. I don't. That was my fault in breeding because at one time I was taking the biggest, tallest, nicest ones, you know, and that's how I got them to 7 pounds by selecting the wrong ones, you know.
Right.
It was a learning lesson. It's not always bigger, better, you know. Sometimes it hits a point where they get too big and, you know.
And you have lived it. I mean, that's exactly what happened to you, with you. So they have gotten just way too big. And that's the result, for what you're saying, that's the result of how you were selecting, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So in the beginning, it was good when they're getting big.
Right.
But there's a point where you got to stop, you know. and it didn't happen gradually. It happened, you know, one season is coming about 6'2", 6'4",
Right.
6'5".
Right.
The next season, I was getting 7'6", 7'11". I'm like, what's going on, you know? Everybody telling me you feeding them too much, you know, and all this other things, but it's just in their blood. They just come that big.
It's in their blood. But what that goes back to, that did teach you a lesson. That taught you how selection will affect your results. So it shows you how important selection is, right?
Oh, it is. And you can, so like in this blood, apparently it's in any blood. You can not infuse any other blood, keep it the way you got it, pure, straight, whatever you want to call it, but you can change their look without adding in anything, just by the selection.
See, that's great.
Yeah. So like for me, there's one thing that I cannot change in my chickens, in this specific blood of the Goldens. I don't know why. They got the ugliest tails in the world, and I can't change it. I love the chickens. They're good. They're awesome. The bodies, I like their fighting style.
Right.
They're really smart, but they got the ugliest tails in the world, and I can't change it. You know, there's nothing I can do. Like, you know, I don't want to infuse nothing else into it. You know, so when I make crosses out of them, oh yeah, their tails are super nice.
Right.
But it's just the straight ones. They got these ugly, spaced, crooked tails, and they're short. They got short tails, and you know, I guess you can't have it all. You know, you can't have it all. It bothers me. It bothered me so much, but like now it's to the point I just laugh about it because I can't change it.
Yeah, you can't change
I try.
it.
You know how they say, yeah, like you know how they say you take the nice hens with the long curl tails to make longer curl tails.
Right.
That's probably true in 99% of the time, just not in my situation. It doesn't work.
Those are not the results you're getting, huh?
Yeah, just, you know, they all got these shorter tails. Like they're so big bodied, so nice, and their tails are like straight 90-degree angle, kind of ugly curl looking, and that's just, I don't know. Like the pumpkins, they got nice tails, you know. The hatchets, they got nice tails.
Right.
The Goldens, you know.
The tails are just no good.
Yeah.
So tell me this, A.K.A. So what's really good, and I want to go back to just a comment that you made a few minutes ago, is you were saying that based on your experience, that you're able to even just change the looks of your birds and everything without even infusing anything into them, right?
Yeah, I believe you can.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not talking about leg colors. I'm not talking about combs, you know, but as in structure-wise, by selecting certain ones, you can change the structure and the makeup of your chicken. You know, you can.
So you can fine-tune it to your liking without infusing anything else by just adjusting your selection process or standards.
Yeah.
Got you. Which is a result of what you've done. But it went too far in the direction that you were going. You were trying to get them big, and you were selecting, but you went just way too big. They got way too big.
Yeah. It can happen in one breeding, and it can take you breedings to get them back down. Or
correct.
So, like,
right?
I just try to be ahead of the game and always be ahead. So if it does mess up somehow, you still got the back line before it messed up to start on. So right now I have 3 different families in the same blood, you know, and there's actually a 4th one, which is that inbred one, that brother-sister mating. So I keep them all separate, you know, they're all separate. And, you know, basically I didn't get to the point where every so many years you take one family and infuse them into the rest yet. So I'm still working on the individual families, but the goal is to eventually take the best, you know, and infuse them into the other ones. So that's why I did that inbreeding. That's why I did all that other one.
Right. And have you done that with all 3 families? Did that inbreeding type concept with all 3 families that you have?
No. Only on one family I did the inbreeding, the brother sister.
Okay.
The other ones I did father daughter, and I started from that way. And then uncle niece. Uncle niece is one way I did it. So it's all a little different, but all same blood. But like I got them good. I got them coming 100% identical. You know, they look. There's, you know, you know, a lot of people say there's no such thing as pure-blooded chickens anymore, right? But I got them identical. So far, this year was the test to see what they really was. You know, if I was gonna get a throwback, but out of 5-6 years, I didn't get one throwback yet.
Wow.
And I got them, you know, 100% yellow leg straight comb.
100%.
You know, didn't throw another comb. Yeah.
Tell me this, A.K.A, do you do single mating or group mating?
For certain ones that I know what I want, I do group matings, but it's usually only like 2 hens and a rooster, maybe 3 hens and a rooster. But for all brood stock, I do single mating.
Single mating. Okay. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your breeding, because obviously you said at the beginning you wasn't nowhere near a good breeder. Everything you bred just was born and then it died, and it born and then it died, and all that. So as you progress throughout time, obviously now you can breed. So let's talk a little bit about your breeding. Do you use incubator, a natural hatch? You know, what's your formula with that?
I was natural hatching for a very long time, you know, and then but the incubator makes it easier if you want more selection to choose from, and you know, you got to use an incubator if you want to hit numbers, you know.
Right. So tell me this, A.K.A, how is it to use an incubator in Hawaii with that humidity, natural humidity that they have out there?
Yeah, in the beginning, so it's always different. There's not like one set humidity in Hilo. Like Hilo, Hawaii is one of the rainiest cities in the United States. You know, it rains. You know, when they say it rains in Hilo, like that's an understatement, because when it rains here, it rains.
It does, huh?
Yeah, it rains, and the thing is, it's rain, shine, rain, shine. So the humidity, you know, it's up there. So last season, I ran into a problem where I called the lady from the incubator place, you know, that I got them from, and she couldn't believe that our humidity was in the 90s. Natural humidity. I'm telling them, like, I have no water in this incubator, and I'm at 93%, you know.
Wow.
And it's just because it was raining so much. And in Hawaii, we don't got these good insulated houses, yeah? That is, you know, so the moisture comes right in.
Right.
You know, and rarely anybody has air conditioning in their houses in Hawaii. I mean, on other islands they do, but in Hilo, Hawaii, really rare. But that was a struggle for me last season with the incubator, was the humidity.
Right.
You know, because it was going high. It was to the point where I had to keep opening the door to let out the humidity, you know, a little bit, because it was building up a little higher in the incubator than it was outside. And then it came to the point where we had to go to the store and buy a dehumidifier just to put it in the room that the incubator was in. Close all the windows, you know, close everything, and suck out all the humidity in the air, just so we could get the humidity to drop in the incubator.
Wow. So you had to actually go get a dehumidifier to try to get some of that humidity out of there.
Yeah, because it wasn't all year breeding season. It was just this specific time in a month where we was raining. Like, we had a bad storm, and, you know, the rivers was overflowing. Like, downtown Hilo was pretty much flooded, you know. It was just raining way too much. It's not all the time. Like, this season, I had smooth sailing in the incubator. The weather's been good. You know, I've been able to control the incubator pretty good. So
it's been okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, A.K.A, with all of that rain out there, is it typical to have tide cords in Hawaii? You know, tide cords, or y'all put them in, so y'all do use tide cords?
Yeah, tide cords and teepees. Some people use barrels, but mostly tide cords and teepees. Yeah.
Mostly tide cords. So how do the birds deal with all that rain out there? I know it's not all year, but when it does come heavy rain, like them periods of time, how does the birds deal with that?
The chickens will show you if you do a good job keeping them healthy or not once it starts raining. That's for sure.
Got you.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't take care of them and they're not healthy, the rain and the weather will show you that you're not doing a good job, you know?
So it exposed the weaknesses of your program, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. If it starts raining bad and, you know, your chickens overnight, they will, if they're not in top health, they will tell you that they're not healthy.
Wow. So that, hey, I guess that's a good indicator, huh? I guess that you know, if a strong if a strong rain comes through and you look outside and everything ain't droopy, then you be like, okay, my program is on point.
Yeah, and like the thing with our island is so crazy is there's so many different climates on the big island.
Mm-hmm.
On the big island of Hawaii, there's so many. It snows here on this island, on our mountain. Yeah, so we got snow here too, but it's in higher elevations. But there's people that live, you know, they got chickens more on the higher or countryside, you know, up in the mountains where it's
Wow.
cooler. And there's areas where it's hot. Like so, one side of our island, Hilo, it's rainy. It's a rainy side of the island.
Right.
You go to the opposite side, the west side of our island,
Mm-hmm.
and it rarely rains. It's hot as ever.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and there's chickens all around this island.
Right.
You know, so all different climates. So I had chickens a couple different places, but a struggle for me, like right now, I live right near the ocean. I would say my backyard is about 100 yards from the water. Yeah.
Wow.
But the hardest struggle for me was when I came here, and you know, to do chickens here, it's hot. That's why at the beach, you know, it's hot on this side,
Mm-hmm.
but it rains and the humidity, and I don't know if the salt air does a play in the chickens too, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, when I was starting to put up roosters here, they were flat all the time. You know, it's so hot, like it just drains everything out of the roosters.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, I had a hard time in the beginning. Like I pulled out of a lot of derbies because, you know, the spars, like you're looking at them, their legs they look weak, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but then it's different once you leave here. Once the chickens rest and they leave this climate here,
Right.
they go any other environment and they'll fight good, you know?
Wow.
It's just, yeah, it's I had a hard time in the beginning. I didn't understand it until, you know, one day I just got fed up and be like, we're just gonna fight them anyway.
Right.
You know, they're not sparring too good. We're just gonna go.
Right.
And we went, and the chickens were
Perform phenomenal.
perfectly fine. Yeah, but if you seen the last, you know, 3 spars, you wouldn't want to fight them. You wouldn't want to fight them.
You like, I'll pass on that. We're not rolling the dice on this. We're not just going there to donate no money, huh?
Yeah. But it's just, I think it's the humidity, the heat, you know, the salt air. I don't know what it is, but the chickens go through a hard training process here in where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can push through, because I work the chickens hard. I'm a believer in table training. And so if they can push through 5 weeks in this environment, when they get their rest, they can go anywhere. They can go anywhere and they'll do okay.
Gotcha.
They don't. I noticed too when I train down here, they don't stress out a lot. They stress out every day. You know, they stress out every day in this environment. So when I put them up, I rarely run into roosters that stress because it's kind of it's like better than their normal when they're in the keep. They work hard and whatnot, but they eat good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they rest good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I noticed they don't stress too much. Like the last week stress, the last couple of days when you start pointing them, I rarely run into roosters stressing out.
Right.
Where when I was in other environments, you know, I used to have a lot that used to stress out.
Right. So they pretty much is living in a harsh environment day to day to day.
Yeah.
So when they get that rest period, it's like, you know, or they start words like, we cool because this is kind of what we deal with every day. So they getting like a break. When they go through that rest period, they getting a break from that harsh environment.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's hot and very high humidity, but the humidity you said is not high all throughout the whole entire year, though.
Yeah, not like when it rains and it's hot, it's really high, you know. So but the humidity is always high, though. It's always on the higher side.
The humidity is always on the higher side, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. So you use incubators. We talked about your breeding. Tell me this, though, which we maybe skipped a little bit. We talked about what you look for in a cock, but what do you look for in your hens?
The hens is I look for structure too, structure in the hens, but you know, most of all now I think I look for the way they act.
Mm-hmm.
Even the hen and the rooster, you know. But there's certain hens, the way they act is a big thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not only how they look, you know. I don't like skittish hens, you know. I like real proud hens, you know,
Huh.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I noticed like some years back, if you breed a skittish hen or a rooster, there's a high possibility your roosters or hens that come out will be skittish too.
Wow. Okay, I got you. So you like to pick those hens not just by just the body structure, but their attitude, their confidence, and all of that, right?
Yeah, that's like a newer thing that I've been going off and trying to learn is like, because chickens, they're all different. Like when you really got to know your roosters, even like when you're training or feeding. If you feed every bloodline and every rooster the same and you point them out and fight them in the same way, you will be hit or miss, if you don't really know your roosters. You could get them fighting good majority of the times, but you really got to understand your blood to feed them to the best of your ability, because like for two separate bloodlines I have, one, I have to fight them with a little bit of feed in them, just a little bit. And then the other one I can do with a whole lot less in them. So basically, two different chickens, they fight on two different feeding levels, So to me, you really got to know your rooster to feed them,
Yeah, and I agree with that also, too. And that's probably one of the reasons, too, especially if you just, if you don't have a vast amount of knowledge, the less bloodlines you have, the better. Because if you don't have a vast amount of knowledge, you're not going to be able to make all those adjustments from all those different bloodlines. And because all them birds ain't going to be the same. They're not going to be the same. And
I learned that the hard way. Yeah.
You learned it the hard way, huh?
It's like the other, maybe 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I had so much different kinds of roosters I was breeding and I was crossing and the mistakes you make in this game.
I call it Skittles, man. I said you don't want to look out in your backyard and have a yard full of Skittles. It's like 16 colors set me free. You got all these different bloodlines and all it is. And
I had every color you could think of, I had blue ones, orange ones, black ones, red ones, Oh, man. But like my whole thing was this. I told myself, I'm not buying any more brood stock already because I did it so many times.
Right.
So I really focus on basically 2 bloodlines now. And I have a third one on the side that I do breed them, but not too much of them. I just keep them to keep the bloodline around so I could make my crosses off of that blood. So I'm not too into depth into breeding that blood in the extent that I am the other ones that I have.
Right.
But to me, 3 bloodlines is more than I can handle, honestly.
Right. Right.
And, if guys can say one person can maintain 10 bloods, I want to meet you, man, because it's hard. It's hard.
You said it's a struggle. The struggle is real with 3. If somebody can do 10, they're like, man, I need to see how you doing 10. Because it is difficult. It is difficult. But from talking with you, and talking with some of the other breeders, we all know it's good and bad birds in every bloodline. And it seems like the guys who do well is the guys who actually spend more time trying to understand their bloodline instead of spend more time trying to acquire other bloodlines. That's what I have kind of seen. The guys who do well is the ones who truly understand what they have. And then you have guys like you said earlier, that you're constantly acquiring all these different bloods. You're not truly knowing that blood, and you don't do well. And it seems like when you start to buckle down and start to consolidate and start to get more focus on 1, 2, or 3 and better understanding them, you have a lot more success than having the best of this, the best of that, the best of this, the best of that. But you don't have the knowledge to bring the best out of all those different bloodlines. So that's kind of, so you have to learn that the hard way, huh?
Yeah, I used to try, it's crazy. Chickens, when you actually think you're understanding and you got it down, the chickens will show you something that will make you scratch your head and be like, oh, here we go again. It's a never-ending learning curve. Like, I learn every day. I try to, do as much, reading and whatever I can, just so when you run into certain situations, you at least have something to fall back on, but I'm just thankful for good friends in the sport, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't know anything, They took the time to actually show me, and you know.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. When you think you actually know the chickens and you got them down, they'll show you something to let you know that you don't really know everything yet, you know. The chickens will show you.
They'll let you know. They'll humble you. That's what they do. They humble you. They're very good at humbling you. Some guys like, man, a chicken make you a liar out of you all the time. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if he made you a liar. Maybe he wasn't paying attention. Maybe that's what it was. But I understand.
No, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, you're not paying attention to him. And like, you know, the biggest thing I see in Hawaii is when people show roosters and they don't do good or whatnot, they didn't have luck that day. You know, that's one of the main things.
Right.
They didn't have luck. They blame the roosters. They didn't fight good. Whatever it is.
Right.
But I believe 95 to 99% of the time, if you went to the Derby and your chickens didn't show good, it wasn't because you brought horrible roosters to the Derby, because they must have been good at some time for you to actually want to enter them, right? And if it wasn't good, then that's your fault for entering chickens that's not good. But if you train them, they have to have shown you something for you to want to put them in the Derby. And if come Derby day, fight day, they're horrible, it's not the rooster's fault. It's not luck. I don't believe in luck. Human error, you know. The human error. Humans, every time I mess up, my chickens don't fight good, I'll raise my hand. My fault. You know, it's not the roosters. It's not the roosters at all. It's human error, you know.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. And we had this conversation before. I have even talked about it on different videos. And I always say this. There is a combination of things that you have to have right to get you. There's a combination of things that you got to get right in order to have a good performance. And the guy that wins is the guy who got all of his combination of things right. The guy that lost is the guy who didn't get all of his combination of things right. That's why, you know, I have so much respect for the ones that compete at a high level for a long period of time, because they done figured out that formula with all the different variations, because it ain't never the same. The temperature is never the same. The humidity is never the same. Nothing is never the same. And I tell a lot of guys that ask me, I say, listen, they ask my opinion. I say, look, I'm going to tell you like this. This is why I respect guys who's always at the top of the sport. What they have that a lot of other guys don't have, and that's why I say stop using that word luck, because when you use that word luck, you just shut off your ability to start learning. You don't analyze what went on.
Exactly.
You throw luck in there, it's like, oh, everything right. It just wasn't my day. Well, you know what? You're not going to learn from that situation because you threw the word luck in there. Keep that word luck and take total responsibility for the result, and you will learn more. So what I say is there is so many things that you have to get right to just have a good performance. Still don't mean you're going to win. I always say focus on your performance and not just the wins, because we have all had wins that we were not satisfied with. We all had the wins like, well, you won't. He won, but I won't be bringing him again. We all had them. So that kind of shows you that you can't just focus on a win and a loss. You got to focus on the performance. So the guys who's winning is a lot of times the guys who got that combination of things as closest to perfect as possible to get that excellent performance. If you have a very bad performance, you were just so far off in so many different categories and you did not realize it. Just because you didn't realize it don't mean it didn't happen. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because you thought his moisture was right, don't mean it was right. Just because you thought it was right, don't mean it was right. Just because you thought he felt good, don't mean he was feeling good. So I say the guy who's winning is the one who checked more of those boxes than the other guys. That when he thought it was feeling right, he was feeling right. When he thought the moisture was right, the moisture was right. When he thought he had enough feed in him, you know what I mean? He like the guy who's winning is checking all them boxes. But the guy who have a bad performance, dude, it was not no luck, man. Unless it's like one of those, like one of those luck buckles. And those don't come that often. You know, ain't too many losses, wins and losses determined on that, just that. There ain't none of that. some of them, both of them got opportunity as it goes on to win and to lose. So I always say, don't bank on that first little flurry, that one little buckle, because there ain't too many determined on that. Worry about checking those boxes, making sure you're understanding how he feels. I always say document it. Make a mind memory of it. This is how he felt. How did he perform? This is how he pooped. How did he perform? This is how he act. How did he perform? A lot of guys don't do that. They leave. Oh, he feel good. He acted good. If you don't win, it wasn't my day. Okay. Well, you're going to make that same mistake again. I promise you. And it ain't going to be 3 years down the road. It ain't going to be 3 years down the road. You know why? Because you didn't give your opportunity to learn. Because you blamed it on an external thing that had nothing to do with you. It wasn't me. I fed him right. I had the best brew pen. His 18 brothers did well. I don't know why he didn't do well. Okay. All right. That's all I always say. It ain't a discussion, dude. I always say look inward instead of outward. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much what you're saying, the same thing.
It's human error a lot of people. They just don't want to own up to it, and a lot of it's either to just easier I guess sometimes to say I didn't have luck or that chickens wasn't good, but
it's not that.
I didn't show too much this last 2 seasons, but like I still go watch sometimes, and a lot of them you can tell it's human error, and and the sad part is too sometimes is guys fight so good, but they don't know what they did and why they're fighting that good, so it's hard to do it again,
And it don't.
Yeah. But like in Hawaii, it's real competitive.
Right.
Guys are getting good. Everybody got good chickens. So, it's just a lot of people's coming up hard in this game in Hawaii. Like, don't get me wrong. There's always, the OGs, these guys that've been around a long time. So not to take nothing away from those guys because they've been doing it for a long time.
That's right.
But, the game is evolving. It's evolving as chickens. And the day you stop learning is the day you'll fall behind in this game. So even though you're winning, you're doing good, there's still things you can learn. Maybe not in pointing or whatever if you're really good at it, but in other aspects of your game. But the chicken game, it's evolving. Just like any other sport. You look at basketball, from Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, to Jordan, to Kobe, to LeBron. It's an evolution of the game. You cannot compare one generation to the next because, they're 2 different generations. And if it wasn't for the earlier generation, the new generation wouldn't be as good. So you got to give credit to all the guys before you that, paved the way for you to be, it's not about being better than them. It's lucky they did what they did for you so you could learn from it.
That's right. You know what, dude? You're the first person I have heard say that, and that is so, so true. That is so true. And I think sometimes we get so caught up into comparing instead of appreciating.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We get so caught up into comparing, and instead we should be appreciating. Because like you said, they paved the way. You wouldn't have the genetics you have today if they didn't have the genetics and do what they did back then. So instead of comparing, we need to appreciate. Yeah. That's exactly. Right. Yeah, so I tell you, man, you and I have talked before. We had some lengthy conversations. We laugh a lot because we just think some of the same stuff is comical. And again, like I say, man, the sport is evolving from breeding aspect to everything from seed, the science, the technology, the better understanding of how chickens' body work. The better understanding of what they need, the better understanding of equipment, tools, ground, grass, substitutes. It's so many different things. Like you said, it is evolving. But I always say, better understand what you have. Don't keep trying to acquire something. If you better understand what you have, you'll do better off. And it goes back to take that luck out of the mix and focus on what did I do wrong? What could I have done right, better? And what box that I thought I checked off, but it wasn't correct. Because a lot of people checking boxes, and when you see them perform, you're like, that bird wasn't right. I mean, some of them you can feel. Like, dude, this bird ain't feeling good. I'm telling you, he ain't feeling right. When you go in there, like, I told you. You're like, I told you. He's not feeling right. And there's no substitute for experience. I tell guys all the time, you should, if your bird is not in a moat and you're trying to learn, like say you don't have years under your belt where you handle a lot of chickens and stuff like that, you should be putting your hands on chickens all throughout the day. I mean, all throughout the time that you're at the house. Now, I know people got jobs and stuff like that, but you should always try to put your hand on your bird every opportunity to try to see the different feels of bodies. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of guys don't do that. They want to just look at him from a distance. Oh, he looked good. He acted good. Man, pick that bird up and put your EBGBs on him. You know, how he feel, how his legs feel, how his muscles feel, how his breast feel, all of that kind of stuff, and put him down. It's not going to cause no hurt. You're not harming him. Understand how that bird feels, and you can determine, you'll realize that his body changes. Like his body changes.
Oh, yeah.
In the morning, he'll feel one way. You feel him in the afternoon, he'll feel another way. You feel him after he eats, he'll feel it. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that Jinjin talked about. We had Jinjin on here from the Philippines, and Jinjin was talking
I like
about,
that interview. That guy, he's onto something.
exactly,
I like that interview.
man. The dude is not a two-time World Slasher Cup champion. And,
he's onto something.
He's not doing that good for coincidence. It's a reason why those guys are at that level. And once you start to get into their mind, that's why I like these interviews. Once you start to get into these people's mind, you understand that it's not all cut and dry. You got to lift up under the hood and see what's under there. It might be a Mustang, but it could have a 6-cylinder in it, a V8 in it, a supercharge in it. So look up under the hood and say, oh, it's a sweater, it's a hatch, it's a this, it's a that, it's supposed to do this. It don't work that way, dude. Or if I feed him this, his body going to do that. It don't work that way. It's not cut and dry.
Yeah. But like you said, the feel of the chicken, that's, to me, the biggest thing you can do in chicken game in general is feel them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just by no words needed, you don't got to watch him. Just by you feeling him, you will be able to tell more about that rooster than, watching him for 24 hours without touching.
Watching all that other stuff.
Yeah. You can watch him for 24 hours. You will learn more in that 2 seconds you feel him.
Feeling him. Yep. That's exactly right.
And that's my number one thing. Like on my checklist, like you said, you got a checklist, the body. Before that rooster will even get into a pre-keep, his body got to be up to par. I don't care. He could be the best rooster in the yard sparring. Sparring, he could be the best rooster. I feel his body, and it ain't how I want it. I don't care how good he is. He ain't going to go in the rotation.
Right.
I go by bodies first. Bodies is first.
Right.
They have to feel a certain way. They have to, everything has to be right. Then we worry about if they're good or not.
Right.
Some people might think that's backward. It's better to get the good ones than work on the bodies. But the bodies is the hardest thing to get out of a chicken. It's better to take good bodies and try to get them good than to take a down body that's a really good rooster and try to get his body back, because in a hard workout and he can't build his body. It's not going to happen.
That's right.
You can get his body better to what it is than what it is right now. Yeah, of course you can get it better, but as being 100% good, there's no way.
There's no way. That's exactly right. I mean, like I say, man, I have said it many times before in other videos. If you're trying to learn, you should be out there picking up those roosters, because their body changes so much within a 24-hour span. His body can feel 6 different ways. Pick that thing up, man, and feel them. So you can start doing like a muscle mind memory. You can start filling up your data bank of, man, this is how he feel. I'm feeling him. He feel like this in the morning, this in the afternoon. I'm saying as you're learning. If you already got years up under your belt and you felt hundreds of roosters, you may not have to do that as much. But if you're learning, if you're really getting into it, man, you better pick up and feel as many roosters as you possibly can, dude. Because I'm telling you, that's going to be a huge determining factor. And your number one downfall is you picked the wrong one. And if you understood how his body should feel, you would have never had him in his selection. He would have never been in a line at all. So
I agree with that. Feeling the bodies, to me, that's number one on my list. You're never going to feel a rooster in my lineup that doesn't feel good.
Right.
If it doesn't feel good, he don't belong there at all. At all. He don't even belong in the rotation.
Right.
And it just makes it easier. Yeah. But I feel a lot of people's lineups, other people's, and a lot of people, not all, but a lot of people would rather go take the better rooster than the nice-bodied rooster. They'd rather take a down body or not as nice body, but he's better than a rooster that is perfect on the body but not as good.
Right.
Me, I'm opposite. I'd rather take the body that is perfect, the rooster not so good. I'd rather do that because another thing too with the body. Once I don't care what weapon you fight in, if they don't got a good body that is there, once they get hit, their demeanor will change.
Yep.
The chicken, they will change. I don't care what. If your chicken ain't healthy, he will change when he get hit. I don't care if the bloodline is the gamest chickens around. If he's not healthy, his demeanor will change.
Right.
Once he get hit.
That's exactly right, dude. And that's why I say body, body, body. What I mean by body is the flesh. He got to be in good flesh. His flesh got to be healthy. I'm not saying the structure and big, because guys are like, oh, no, I don't like roosters built like that. I'm not talking about the built. I'm talking about good flesh. How do
they can take it.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the whole deal, man. His flesh. How does his flesh feel? You know, I don't care what type of structure he has, what type of flesh he has, because you can have a wide breast, wide back, but you pick him up and he feel like a dry rag, like a soaking, you know, like a wet rag or something. Like, I don't care how he's built, but his body, his chest, his breast, his legs, it feel like a rag. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want guys to get confused when I say feel that body. Like I'm trying to convince them of a certain body structure. Like whatever body structure you like. But whatever body structure he has to be in good, healthy flesh. Good, healthy flesh. Period.
No chicken should be skin and bones. You know, there's no way. Yeah.
He should be skin and bones. He shouldn't be all dried up. He shouldn't have pasty skin. You know, you get him with that pasty skin. You smash his skin together and it stay like that for 3 or 4 seconds. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I didn't seen it. But looking at them on a tie cord, they look one way under those feathers. But pick that thing up, man, like, woo, and fill in that breast. You know, I learned something, you know, from Mike Kirkland out there with Gator. You know, I was out there 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, about 4 weeks ago. I was out there at Gators, and I had an opportunity to walk their yard and talk about not just looking at chickens, because there wasn't that many there. He had very little chickens on it, roosters on the yard. But I got to have a conversation with Mario, Gator, and Mike Kirkland, and to understand, okay, we all picking up the same birds. And I asked each of them, so what do you feel? What do you feel? What do you feel? Then I'll put it in my hand and see if I feel what each person felt. And I asked Mike, I said, you know, Mike, what do you look for when you pick up? He showed me how he holds a bird. He holds a bird different. When he checking their flesh, he don't hold them like everybody else. He showed me how he hold them, why he hold them like that. But all of them said the same thing. Flesh, flesh, flesh. It doesn't matter about anything else. If that flesh ain't right, it don't matter if he got a straight breastbone and all of that wide back. None of that stuff matter. If he like a rag or a mop, it don't matter what he's built like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I second that. The flesh, the body, it has to. When I talk body, that's what I mean, right? There. They gotta be there. Because especially here in Hawaii and in the long knife, the reason why I like that kind of rooster, especially big, wide ones, is when you got a slender rooster and they're not in perfect health or they don't got that flesh, what's gonna happen when they get hit?
They can't take
That's
nothing.
the end of the story.
That is not. You know what? I see that a lot in Puerto Rico with the hennies. You know, the hennies, the gallinos, and even in good flesh, they do have a narrow structure. They're fast, they're accurate, they got excellent movement. But the problem a lot of times is they go from 100 to 0 when they get hit. Not because they not game or not, you know what I mean? Ain't no framework there. You know what I'm saying? It ain't no framework. The framework is like a, you know, Honda Civic. You know, they fast, they agile, they movement, they accurate, and they extremely dangerous because they extremely accurate and they hit hard. The problem is you got to find the ones that can take it. They can give it, but can they take it? You know, and I'm not saying.
And that's why I like those big bodies, because they can take it. You know, because you got to be able to take, because you're not always going to hit first. You're not always going to hit first. It doesn't plan out that way. No matter how good your chicken's timing is and whatnot, sometimes you're just going to get hit.
Right.
And, you know, you got to have the body there and the health is there. So when you do get hit, you have that split second of opportunity where you can put it back to them.
That's right.
Before,
that's right.
You know.
Yep. That's why I said that opportunity.
There's a split opportunity that makes it, that body gives you that split second of opportunity to pay them back before you're done.
Fall
you know.
apart. That's exactly right, dude. That's
but if the body is there, you got that split second of opportunity to change it. You know, a little bit, you know. But without that structure, once you get hit, there is no split second. You know, it's the end of it. You know.
That is a perfect analogy. You're exactly right. That's why I say, go back to what I said about is still, even with the buckle, it's still a little moment of opportunity to come back. You know what I mean? And that's why I say you go back to that human error type of thing, because ain't too many of them decided in that buckle. It's still a time frame that you have to come back or turn the tide the other way. And that's why I keep putting it back on a human error and not so much of the luck thing. You know what I'm saying? Because did you have that right body? Was they in good flesh? You know what I mean? If you didn't have that right body and it wasn't in good flesh, that's human error. That's why he didn't come back. That's why he couldn't take
human error.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, talking about hennies, a couple weeks ago, I ran into a henny, okay? And I do things for certain reasons, and so the roosters, I don't have any loose hens running around. I have none. And for the reason being is I don't want the stags or the roosters that's going to be in the pit to breed the hens. I don't want them to even know what that is, you know? And a lot of people think different. They want them to breed hens so they get cocky and, you know. But, you know, my roosters that I train, they get to the breed pen after they prove themselves, you know, never before. And, but I do that for that reason. And I ran into a henny, and I wasn't sure. Some other roosters went bad. He needed some chickens. So I had some in rotation. So I told him, oh, you know what? I got one that I took out of the brood pen. He's a really good rooster. So I gave it to him and another one, right? And out of all the chickens, this is the only rooster that bred a chicken in the whole yard. And he had to match up against a henny, right? So me and my friend walk into the pit, and we're talking, I'm telling him about, this rooster's a good one. You're going to be all right. My friend's pitting the rooster. Right there, we see a henny on the scale before we go in to check the weight. Me and him, we're laughing at each other. Oh, I feel bad who fight that henny. You know, we're laughing. You know, I slap him in the chest. Oh, I feel bad who's going to fight that henny. And we're laughing. And then, so I'm explaining to him, that's the reason why I don't let my roosters breed hens that they're going to go in the pit. For that reason right there, I'm telling him. And just so happened, it's us fighting this henny. And with a rooster that just came out of the brood pen, you know, and I'm telling him why I don't let my roosters breed hens. And the only rooster in the brood pen is, the rooster we're fighting against, and I'm scratching my head. So right there, I'm like, oh, man. So, we're telling this guy, oh, who you guys fight? He goes, oh, you guys. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I look at my friend okay. So right there, I walk in the pit with my friend, right? And everybody's following us. Everybody's betting on us. And I'm walking to people hey, hold your guys bet a little bit. He's like, why? I told him, I don't know what's going to happen in this fight. You know, I'm just being straight. Because if what I think is going to happen, this rooster is going to try to breed that rooster. And it might be disastrous. So I'm telling all my friends to hold their bets. You know, hey, don't bet too much on this chicken. Because it's a really good rooster. I just don't know what's going to happen.
That's right.
If that rooster wasn't in the brood pen, I would tell you go for it, because I know he's not going to try and breed them. But sure enough, the guy throws the chicken to the side. Here comes the rooster dancing. They hit us in the throat. We hit them back, but it was too late.
It was
And I told my friend, that's why I don't like to fight chickens that I bred, for that reason. I'm giving him the speech walking to the pit, oh, see, this is why I don't let my roosters breed hens, because for this reason, when somebody busts out a henny, and just so happened it was us. Oh, man. So right there, we're in the tent. After that, he tells me, I thought your roosters fight against hennies. I go, yeah, everyone but that one. I told him, because that one came out of the brood pen. Everyone but that one. If it was any other rooster, I'd be more confident. Every chicken but that one.
But that one. Hey, man, but it goes back to, like you said, human error. That was a human error. It
Human
had
error.
nothing to do with no luck, man. It was human error, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, listen, Al-Kai, this has been great, man. We've been on here for a minute, man. It was a pleasure having you on the show. It gave the guys an inside look, man, of the life of a gamefowl breeder, man, on Hawaii. You know, a lot of guys always had a lot of questions about how things are done out there. What do they deal with? You know, you're the second Hawaiian that we had on the show. We had Chemo on, but his interview was short. His battery died and all that, so we didn't get a chance to talk a lot about it. But they got a great opportunity to kind of see an inside view and an inside look, man, on how life is.
Thanks, man.
You're young. You know, you're not, 55, 70 years old. You're young. You're upcoming. You're the new generation. Like you said, you got much respect and appreciation from the generation prior to you because they laid the foundation for where you are today. And it's always great to have somebody on here that respect the generation before, very humble, want to share unfiltered information, man, and bring a fresh perspective. You know what I mean? It's cool to hear you talk about, you tried different things, and a lot of things you learned from the hard way. Even though they told you not to do it, you did it anyway. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And there's nothing really wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that because you know what? If it would have worked out in a different way, then you would have been the man. But only reason it's like a hard lesson to learn because it didn't work out. You know what I'm saying? That's always I tell people, I say, hey, don't be scared to try something because every bloodline you have in your yard was the result of an experiment, period. None of these birds were born just like they were. Hatches was created. Sweaters was created. All these birds were created. You see what I'm saying? And they were created out of an experiment. Somebody tried something new, and just so happened it turned out to be good. But it was a whole bunch of tries that they tried, and it turned out to be bad, and we don't get to hear about those ones. So, but listen, dude, it was great, man, having you on the show. We need to get your son on the show, too. Because
we'll get him on.
That's right, man. We got to get him on.
You got to be careful with him. I warn you guys right now, okay? So there's an incident. Somebody came here to take his chickens, and I told you about it, Jim. His chickens can't leave the yard. They still got combs. They're the best chickens I got, but they'll never see a pit. Somebody offered him to buy every rooster. So they told him, how much money you want for these chickens then? He tells the guy he wants 20 gold bricks, nothing less. 20 gold bricks. So right there, I'm looking at my friend like, hey, I'm sorry, I would sell you these roosters, but the boss said no, nothing can leave, And there's two people that can come in my yard. One is Uncle Brada Silva and my Uncle Da. They can come in the yard and my son will give them any chicken, no price tag,
Any
but
chicken they want.
He just loves his chickens, he loves them.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. And again, brother, it is amazing, like I say, to see this kind of culture. And look, like you say, his birds are never going to see the pit, but he still loves it. He doesn't love those birds any less. He just loves having them. He loves breeding them. He loves creating them. And that's what we need, man. Like everybody has their role. Everybody has their role. Everybody's goal is not to be inside of a box. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Everybody like different aspects of it. Some guys just like to feed. Some guys just like to breed. Some guys just like to hear them crow in the morning. It is what it is. Yeah. I always say just get in where you fit in. That's the way I look at it. You know what I mean? So
but Jim, I just want to thank you for everything and what you're doing with this whole thing and bringing everybody together. And because the chicken community needs more of that. We shouldn't have any drama and all these. I'm pretty sure it's not only in Hawaii where people got chicken drama. I'm pretty sure it's all over the world.
All over the world.
And it shouldn't be like that in this sport. It should have less of that and more of what you're doing. But I agree with everything you're doing, Jim, and you're doing a lot for especially the future generations. If when we were young, if had something like this, we'll be more ahead than we are now.
Exactly.
Because now you're putting a lot of information out there for the world to learn and grasp, and that's a big thing. So I support you all the way in what you're doing, man.
I greatly appreciate Al-Kai, man. And like I say, man, we'll have you back on the show again. You need to go ahead and get everything coordinated with your son so we can get him on the show. Tell him it's going to be a short interview so he ain't got to stress out. We just want to get him on camera for about 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen. And then also, Brother Silver down the street, man, we need to make that happen once the quarantine and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he got some knowledge. That guy, he's been around. He fought with Larry Carter, and he got a whole bunch of knowledge in him.
Good. Good. So we'll get
He's
it
a
all
good guy.
together, man. I know we're in a bad situation now all over the world, so we'll just figure that as we go along. We'll keep trucking along, one interview at a time, man. Again, I greatly appreciate you coming on. I look forward to coming to Hawaii so y'all can teach me Hawaii.
Yeah, no, next season we'll get you here next season.
Next season for sure, brother.
Sure.
For sure, man. I look forward to it, man. It's been a great honor having you on. It was a pleasure. Thank you for taking the interview, man. I know we've been talking about it for about 6 months now, and I told you the other day, no excuses. I told you no excuses, dude. It's been 6 months. I don't want to hear no excuses. Excuses, man.
Right on.
I hope you
Thanks,
enjoyed
Jim.
it, brother. I hope you enjoyed it, man,
Yeah.
just as much as I did. The viewers definitely enjoyed it, man. Thank you for sharing your information, telling us about your journey, man. It's been an inspiration. You know, like I say, man, it's amazing how we don't realize how these interviews make a positive impact on a lot of people. Just because we don't hear about it, you know, it doesn't mean that we're not making a positive impact. We're doing it one interview at a time, man. One story at a time, one journey at a time. And it's all about each one teach one, brother. They're trying to create something that we wish we had when we were kids. And that's it. That's it. So, A.K.A, you have a good evening, brother. And I'll be talking to you later, brother. Man. All right. Take care, brother. Guys, have a good night tonight, and we will see you soon. So remember, Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we got Baby coming on from the Philippines. Y'all guys know who he is. If y'all don't know, y'all not going to want to miss this interview. Another great interview coming from the guy, Baby, out in the Philippines. Many guys know him in the Philippines, and he came recommended. He was referred to me actually by Jin. So that's how I ended up getting in touch with him, setting up the interview, and it's going to happen. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this coming Sunday. We'll have another interview. So that's 2 interviews this weekend. I have 2 interviews this weekend, and then we're going to go back to the Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But we'll see what happens. Guys, I'll let y'all know. Got a surprise coming next week. We might have some different video footage, some different live stream, maybe from a different location. I'm not telling y'all guys where I'll be, but I'll be somewhere. It won't be a big old, well, I ain't going to say what it's going to be. It's going to be what it's going to be. I think y'all guys enjoy it. I'll bring y'all guys in on the experience when we get there. Help you, let y'all guys tag along, let y'all guys share the experience with me. So that'll be next week. But this coming Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we got Baby Canellis from the Philippines. He's going to come on and talk a lot of science, vaccinations, breeding. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. You know how these interviews go. We'll talk about all kinds of things. I hope y'all guys enjoy it. Don't forget to share the interview. Don't forget to go to Journey to the Pit 362 YouTube channel and subscribe. You know, make sure you send in your request to join the Journey to the Pit 362 group that we have here on Facebook. Answer all of the questions. If you don't answer all of the questions when you send in your request, I will just automatically deny your request. I'm not even going to look at it or nothing. I don't care who you are. If you don't answer all the questions, I just deny the request. I don't even look at it. I just keep it moving. So, again, this video will be posted on Journey to the Pit 362 YouTube channel tomorrow. It'll also be posted on Journey to the Pit 362 podcast, so y'all guys can listen to it without having to have your phones on. You can listen to it on the phone. You can listen to it on your Bluetooth in your car. You can listen to it on satellite radio. There's so many ways you can listen to it. So not only this interview, but all of our past interviews too. So hopefully I'll see y'all guys on Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, we all should stay focused, stay positive, stay blessed, and I'll see y'all guys Sunday. Good night.